All right, good evening, boys and girls. So, just wanted to make a quick video here. It's slightly out of the norm of the Let's Play style videos, but there's just been a big announcement in terms of the upcoming Classic Hardcore servers. So Blizzard released a blue post about it today on the 28th, giving some outline of the rules that they plan on implementing, which will give us a bit more of a filled-in picture of what to expect when these servers release, because we're playing in the game at the minute, but that's all with the intention of going onto the hardcore server. And now obviously what we wanted to ensure from this was that what the server was going to look like when it released was something that actually sounded interesting to play on. You know, worst case scenario would be that the servers release and it's not actually anything close to what we would actually enjoy playing on. So they released this, so we're going to go through it. I've done a little bit of reading ahead, a bit of research, so we'll go through it, and hopefully if people aren't aware of this will make them aware of it. If not, I encourage people to, you know, go searching for videos. A lot of the big content creators have made really in-depth ones. There's a couple of interviews. But yeah, I thought I'd give my 2p's worth. That's what YouTube's about, right? Give my 2p's worth to anybody who wants it. So this blue post, I'll try to share a link into the description of this video, but it's titled Rules of Engagement. Classic Hardcore is coming to World of Warcraft. And as you can see here, June 28th. So it's official. Hardcore Realms are coming to World of Warcraft. Players will have the opportunity to show if they have the edge, the grit, the very will to engage with Azeroth, its denizens, and their fellow players to survive. But there are rules of engagement, as there always are. Here are the rules for World of Warcraft Classic Hardcore Realms, and a little bit of the behind-the-scenes thoughts on the choices that have been made. So what's the first thing it goes over? Hardcore rule set. Death on Hardcore Realms is permanent on that realm. On that realm being the key bit of that. This means that if you die, you won't be able to run back to your corpse and resurrect, nor can you be resurrected by any other spell or ability. This means that even if you have the ability as part of your class, such as the Shaman's Reincarnation or Warlock's Soulstone, they won't be of any use. You will continue to exist in the game world as a ghost to facilitate communication with in-game friends and resolve logistical matters such as handing over guild leadership if you are the guild master who has died an unfortunate death at the hands of a devised bandit or some other deadly creature. Your character is not necessarily lost if you die, however. This is the bit that might entice people. A lot of the hardcore community probably won't care about this, but it is a nice little thing that they added. After dying on a hardcore realm, players will be able to choose to utilize the free character move service and move their dead character to a non-hardcore classic era realm. Once the move is complete to the non-hardcore realm, that character may resurrect as normal, but the way back to a hardcore realm will be closed to them. So from what I can gather from the comments made on this by the Wild Devs is it's a free service, right? It's not monetized. It's not a cash grab by Blizzard. It's you die on hardcore, great, but you put a lot of effort into that character. How does Blizzard make it so that sort of the sting of that is lessened somewhat? If you level up to 45 and you really are attached to that character, you don't want to just have to press the delete button sometimes. So they've added this feature with, you know, I don't remember reading anywhere that people were asking for this, but I can see its benefit. You can transfer the character over to a classic era realm. Now that's not a Wrath of the Lich King or the Burning Crusade realm. That is just the classic era realm. So it'll be interesting to see if that's done very much. It might be. especially if it's something that maybe that they've down the line they increase or improve the classic era realms. But yeah, it's a nice little thing to have. Otherwise, your character is dead. They can't resurrect as not. Well, at the minute they could, but they wouldn't be. They wouldn't be sort of approved on the add-on. They'd get a fail flag. So they're actually blocking you resurrecting. So it's not an option. What that means is that it removes the doubt of you. Am I playing with a hardcore player? Or am I playing with someone who has resurrected 10 times? Which is good. It means if you're on that realm and you're alive, you have not died a single time. There was a bit I read about regarding dying in situations that aren't your fault. One of the big ones they commented on was flight path deaths. So they're implementing a function where if the game recognizes you're on a taxi, aka a griffin, and you disconnect and you fall to your death, they're trying to implement a way for the game to understand that the death was caused whilst on a taxi, and then it will essentially sort of not count as a death. What that actually looks like, who knows? But they are actively trying to do that, which is good. The other side of the coin is there's no. At the minute, you can apply for your death to get revoked on the hardcore Discord. You can say, look, I died. It's not fair. It was outside my control. Can you please allow me to carry on? And somebody reviews it and they say yes, no. This is meaning essentially that no, because you can't resurrect. So it's not like someone can say, yeah, cool, carry on. Click the resurrect button. There is no resurrect button. At least that's what we're being told. So pros and cons. There's a lot more ownership, but playing on a hardcore server on any game, I don't know anyone at the minute, any game that has a hardcore server that allows you to submit a ticket and says, hello, please resurrect my character. It's gone. So it's good. Right, next one they've mentioned PvP flagging and you. So this is a lot to do with griefers. I haven't come across it myself while doing my 3 playthroughs, but it is rife, especially with the big streamers and certain mobs in the game. So players will no longer be automatically flagged for PvP upon attacking another player. To flag yourself with PvP, you must type the command /PvP. You won't be able to take hostile actions against a flagged enemy player unless you flag yourself deliberately. We've added this failsafe to prevent situations in which a player could unintentionally take aggressive action against another player who is flagged for PvP and unwittingly flag themselves. By requiring players to type /PvP before engaging in any PvP content, this maintains fairness and keeps PvP as a consensual part of the game. It will also reduce the likelihood someone will be tricked into becoming flagged unintentionally. It's important to note that attacking an enemy faction NPC will still flag you even if you haven't typed /PvP, so steer clear of settlements of the opposing faction. So that is a anti-griefer fix. One of the big ones that people might have witnessed is you go to a hub where it's Horde and Alliance, and you could get a stealth rogue sat on top of your flight path, your flight master, and when you right click to click on the flight master, you might get so unlucky as to right click the PvP flagged stealthed character, in which case you attack them and then all the guards around you kill you and you're dead. That's a grief. There's a couple of instances where it can happen. So that is a case of if you right click, nothing will happen because you have to physically type /PvP, which is a big win. However, if you run into an opposing faction capital city, enemy faction NPCs, you're still going to get attacked, and they are going to flag you for PvP because you're inside the enemy city. That's going to be pertinent in there's a lot of zones where you can run quite close to the opposing faction's town. So again, it's part of the being careful. But that's a good win. That's a good one for people who have experienced griefs. PvP, Battleground and Warfare. So I spoke recently on one of my upcoming videos about Battlegrounds. I'm not too bothered about it. It is, if you want to play it, they play it. But this is good. They've highlighted what they want now, what they intend to do. So PvP Battlegrounds are completely disabled. As are all PvP Battle Masters. You may still enter pre-made war games, but you may not gain honor or PvP reputations from war games. While PvP is a fun part of World of Warcraft, by allowing players to enter Battlegrounds on one-life characters, there is a concern that this would lead to overly defensive play, often to the point of non-participation, especially when you consider how powerful some rewards are from factions such as Stormlight Guard and Frostwolf Clan. They're the PvP factions that you gain a reputation with, and you can essentially buy really good equipment. PvP is not the focus of the hardcore game mode, so we've decided to disable normal PvP queuing entirely. If you wish to test yourself in pre-arranged war games, however, that's an available option. War games confer no honor or other rewards. Beware, if you engage in war games, death is still permanent. So what that means is all the PvP we could do is turned off. You can't do it at all. It's not available to us. We can't queue, which makes some degree of sense because I'm playing a hunter at the minute, and one of the most powerful weapons you can get as a hunter comes out of PvP. So it makes sense, I suppose. And war games, for anyone who's not 100% aware, is like it's the pre-made version of PvP. So what this means is all PvP is turned off. However, if you want to get a group of 10 people and fight another group of 10 people, you can join a war game and fight, but whatever people die inside that war game will be dead for the foreseeable. So it could be pretty cool. You know, if guilds decide to do like a tournament of, you know, well, our 10 best versus your 10 best, send it into a war game, that could be pretty cool. But it's still a hardcore element to it. So you will still not, if you die in that war game, you can't resurrect. So that's pretty cool. But outside of that, PvP isn't a thing. PvP and quest updates. So various quests and objectives that cause players to become PvP flagged, such as the quest The Attack and The Missing Diplomat, no longer cause players to become flagged for PvP. These quests were never strictly meant to flag you for PvP, but this was a result of how the creatures were set up at the time and was likely the result of an earlier technical limitation. We no longer have this limitation, and to prevent unintended consequences or gotchas, nice, after accepting an innocent-looking quest, we've decided to no longer cause these quests to flag you for PvP combat. Various quest objectives that require the player to die to complete complete or initiate the quest or objective may now be complete without the player's demise. While these quests are iconic and flavorful, the requirement of the character to be in a state of death is obviously problematic on a hardcore realm. As a result, we've designed new ways to complete these quests without requiring your character to die or be dead to complete them. Many quests that require escorting NPC targets have been adjusted in such a way that most escort-related NPCs may no longer be attacked by players of the opposing faction. Many quest-related NPCs, particularly at low level, are very easily killed, and there's very little counterplay to a high-level player of the opposing faction running up, killing your escort NPC, and running away. This is a vector for gameplay disturbance that we don't feel has a place in the game, nor does it add anything meaningful to normal PvP combat. So again, a lot of this, it counters griefing and sort of somebody laying in wait for you to, you know, accept a quest and then flag for PvP. Right, time to die. So they've actively tried to find the quests that do that and remove the element that flags you for PvP, which is great. The quest mobs that you might have to escort, if they were flagged for PvP, they're no longer going to be. So they're going to have to be removed. So if you're on a quest chain, if you're escorting somebody from A to B, it stops the opposing faction from then killing the quest mob, which was a pain. I think a while ago, the big one was the Defias Messenger in Westfall, for anyone who has played on Alliance. Took a long time to get to that stage of the quest chain. Then you got your quest mob, you were escorting him down. Just before you finished the quest, there was a a repeat occurrence where a horde player would kill that character. Nowhere near any guards, nowhere near anyone that could do anything about it. All low-level characters, so that's what they're trying to stop, because that has a direct impact on someone's gameplay and enjoyment of the game, but it adds, like it says, it doesn't add anything meaningful to normal PvP combat. And then quests that require you to be dead, they've changed them. So there's actually one, I couldn't think of too many. There's only two I could think of. One where you've got to drink a potion and it kills you. They've changed that to essentially it drops you to like 1 health, and it sort of classes as like a near-death experience, which is good. And the only other one I could think of, which they actually spoke about as well, was in one of my upcoming videos I talk about Blackrock Depths and how it's a massive dungeon, how it's really, really good. There was a quest that you could only pick up if you die in Blackrock Depths, and on the way of running back to the dungeon as a ghost, running back, there was a ghost who could give you a quest. So they've changed that one to, instead of having to be dead, you just simply run up to the area and there's like a flame. They explained it's sort of like a cauldron, and you stare into the flame for long enough and then you can see the world of the dead, and then you can pick up the quest. So it's a pretty cool way of making someone who's still alive be able to pick up that quest. I'm sure there's other ones I've not experienced, but it was good that they mentioned the two big ones that I think most people who've played the game are aware of. So that's really good. It means that certain quests and experiences within the game are not restricted or like not like, oh well, you can't do that because you have to die for it. They're trying to make everything available to you, which is really good. So another good win. Spoiler alert, a lot of this is wins. There's not many bad things in here. It's really, really good. So danger leashed, right? Okay, so this is another griefing thing. Most creatures will leash and reset when leaving the area or zone where they're tagged. So anyone who's not aware, leashing is when like a mob, you attack something and it's essentially leashed to you, like tied to you. And if you keep attacking them, they'll stay attached in Classic WoW. And what was happening was you could go into a really dangerous area, get a really high level mob, attack it, and you could kite it, which is essentially running off, attacking it every so often, and drag it to a low level area, and then it would just kill all the low level characters. Or take it to a city, it would just kill everyone in the city. There's a couple of really funny videos on YouTube if just search for sort of that sort of thing. Kiting high level mob to, you know, Stormwind or Orgrimmar, and there'll be loads pop up. What they've done here is they'll reset when leaving the area or zone they were engaged in. So you can't leave the zone, which is good. You can't take it from one zone and take it all the way other. So as much as we enjoy frequent visits from Teramus the Devourer, which is a massive dragon, I believe, in Stormwind, or wandering Devasaurs in Thousand Needles, being able to drag or kite, that's where you run and attack it, high-level monsters to low-level areas is a large vector for gameplay disturbance and something that doesn't have a place in WoW Classic Hardcore. The total range that monsters can be pulled is currently fairly large, but can easily be adjusted. We'll be watching for feedback on this implementation from those participating in the PTR. The goal is to prevent high-level players from kiting dangerous monsters across the entire zones, but we don't want it to interfere with legitimate gameplay, such as hunters kiting elite monsters to solo difficult quests and similar expressions of skill. So they're putting a boundary on these mobs, which looks to be the zone, so the zone of the map you're in. But, you know, that's quite large. But they're not making it like, you know, 100 meters. They're making it as big as they can to allow people to still play the game and still showcase themselves, but not allowing that to interfere with other zones that aren't, you know, people in those zones might not be the right level to deal with that mob, which is really good. Again, a griefing thing. You know, it's funny to watch, but not to experience, especially if you're on a hardcore character. The next one, dungeons on the clock. All dungeons have at least a 24-hour lockout timer for players below level 60. One of the most important aspects of the WoW Classic Hardcore realms is engaging in adventures in the outside world with other players. Creating random and serendipitous interactions is a core aspect of the original release of World of Warcraft, and spending most of your leveling time in dungeons is counter in spirit to what hardcore is about. We do recognize that there may be desires to run a dungeon while leveling multiple times, such as to finish a quest or get an important piece of loot. As a result, we've added a 24-hour timer to almost all dungeons for players until they hit level 60. By extension, this also means that level 60 players may never enter low-level dungeons with a player below level 60 for any reason. Additionally, we've carried over the group experience restrictions from Season of Mastery, meaning that players that are significantly higher level than the creatures in a given dungeon will cause those creatures to grant trivial experience to the other members of the group. Higher level characters power leveling. Lower level characters are not something that we feel is appropriate for World of Warcraft Classic Hardcore. So a couple of points inside this that I think are quite important to highlight. They're adding a 24-hour lockout for everyone under 60 for all dungeons. Now, I interpret that to mean if you run Dead Mines, you then get locked out of Dead Mines. Just like, what's it called in retail? It's you can play certain dungeons like once a day, and that's it. I don't believe it means, so I could go to Dead Mines once on a Monday. I could then go to Shadowfang Keep on Monday. I could do Wailing Cavern on Monday. And I couldn't do any of them again on Monday. But on the Tuesday, they all unlock again. And I can do all of them again. What I don't think this means is you do a singular dungeon, as in I do Dead Mines, and then I can't enter any other dungeon for that 24-hour period. I don't think that's what that means, because that wouldn't make sense in the context of how this is written. I believe they mean it to be one dungeon as a singular named dungeon can be entered once a day, and then you can't re-enter that specific dungeon until tomorrow at reset time, which is brilliant. It means that the people who are playing, like the big streamers who are playing it 10 hours a day, they'll go to Dead Mines, and in 24 hours after that point, they'll be so outside of Dead Mines level, it won't impact them. But people like myself, and I dare say the majority of players who are, more casual, we might go to Dead Mines on a Saturday, happy days, and then Sunday might come around and might be like, oh, I'll jump on the game. Oh, I'll fancy doing Dead Mines again. Let's go. And we can do that. But it does stop people just staying in a dungeon. These people that want to play 10 hours, 20 hours a day, they can't sit in Scarlet Monastery and just farm experience all day, which is good. They've made you can be power leveled, so you can go to Dead Mines with a level 50, and they just pull the entire dungeon in 5 minutes, clear it, and you get a lot of experience. It did this recently, so essentially if there's someone outside the level bracket of a dungeon, the experience that everybody in the group gets is trivial, to grant trivial experience. So that's really good. That's that just means everyone in the group's going to be the right level for the dungeon, so it'll be as challenging as it needs to be. I don't know about negative, but the interesting part of this is level 60 players may never enter lower level dungeons with players below level 60 for any reason. Now, there's a couple of dungeons at top level that you could go with a level 60 because you could go back at level 60. It's still within the bracket. So Blackrock Depths, Upper Blackrock Spire, Lower Blackrock Spire, Dire Maul. These are dungeons that you could go to at level 59, let's say, with level 60s to start getting gear for level 60 and stuff. But this is saying a level 60 cannot join a group of level 50, or a level 59 can't join a group of level 60 to do those dungeons, which is very interesting. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that works, because that's what that's going to do, is that's going to slow down progression at the the top level guilds, that's going to slow them down a fair amount, because the people who are getting to the top levels won't be able to, like, right, I'm level 58. I'll do on a Monday, I'll do, you know, the 4 big dungeons to get ready to start getting my gear. And then by the time I hit level 60 on Thursday, I'm pretty much fully ready for a raid. It means they've physically got to wait until level 60. Then they can start going to level 60s to do the full clears. They could do the dungeons with like level 50 up to level 59, sure. But yeah, they can't go with like maybe their guild members who would be able to do it faster. So it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense for everything apart from level 55 up. You could see it causing a couple of issues. Even trying to find a group to do stuff with. If you're level 59, you can't find a tank. There's a level 60 tank. He can't come with you. You know, you've got to find someone who's under level 60. So that's an interesting one. All in all, a big win. The only people it's really going to affect in a negative fashion would be like the really very keen gamers out there. But everyone else, I think this is this is positive. And yeah, another win. Happy days. Next one then, debuff or debuff. There's the 16 default limit and 32 buff limits have been removed on Hardcore Realms. Buff and debuff, got it backwards. Limits were originally a technical limitation in the earliest versions of World of Warcraft and was not a conscious design choice at that time. This aspect of the original release was maintained for the release of WoW Classic in 2019 for authenticity, but this has always been a contentious part of World of Warcraft and places significant constraints on builds and class diversity. As a result, we'll be removing this limitation in Hardcore Realms and effectively uncapping buffs and debuffs. So this is more towards raids. This is more towards, can we bring a Shadow Priest? Yes or no? Well, my understanding is that the previous take was no, a Shadow Priest isn't as valuable as something else, because a Shadow Priest uses some of the buff slots, or the debuff slots, I should say, because they use dots, so they don't take them. So that's what they've said. They're saying that, yeah, their hope, and from reading further into this, their hope of this is to allow people to play a class and a spec that they maybe wouldn't have been permitted to, or maybe might have been suboptimal, or whatever word you want to use. They'd now be able to do it. There's no raid blocker to taking a Boomkin. You know, you can take an Affliction Warlock, just because the Affliction Warlock takes up like 5 debuff slots. For anyone who's not 100%, if a Warlock takes up 4 or 5 debuff slots and the raid is 40 people, that means that there's 11 debuff slots left for the remaining 39 people. So obviously you wouldn't be taking Affliction Warlocks. So it means you can take as many Warlocks as you want now. Will it have a massive impact on the gameplay for those people that this impacts? Probably not, because they're still going to find the overpowered class, and they're still going to stack the overpowered class, and you know. But it's nice. It means that people don't have to feel like they can't play a certain class spec just to get into raid. There's no technical limitation, which is great. Bubble Hearth. So it's a skill a paladin can do. They can bubble themselves, and then they can use their Hearthstone to return to town. It wasn't allowed in the Hardcore add-on, so this is what they've done on the Hardcore realm. So paladins will not be able to use the Hearthstones while under the effect of Blessing and Protection, or Divine Shield on Hardcore realms. Being able to bubble Hearth is fairly iconic, if not exactly heroic, feature of the Paladin class. However, the reincarnation ability is also an iconic feature of the Shaman class. While Paladins have enormous tools to prevent death, a Shaman's core tool to recover from death is wholly incompatible with Hardcore. As a result, we are removing the ability for Paladins to use their various immunity abilities to safely cast Hearthstone and escape danger. This shouldn't really be surprising anybody. That if they had allowed it, it would have meant that a Paladin had like a get out of jail free card that no one else had anything close to. So fairly straightforward. I think they've just removed that aspect of it, And obviously there's a lot of spells and stuff that classes can't use. So Paladin they can use their bubble, but they can't then use a Hearthstone while the bubble's active. There's other stuff that's just no longer useful, like Resurrections, Reincarnation for a Shaman, Soulstone for a Warlock. All that stuff is out of there, gone, which is good because it's really, it all affects whether or not you die. So it's another win, really. I don't know if Paladins would agree, but I think the majority of us would agree it's a win. Duel to the death. So this is a feature they're adding in terms of it's a duel that you can essentially kill your opponent on. A new feature has been added to Hardcore Realms, Duel to the Death. To issue a Duel to the Death, you will need to right-click the target's portrait and request a Duel to the Death from the context menu. A Duel to the Death can also be triggered by selecting the target and typing Makgora in your chat window before commencing combat. Both parties must read and acknowledge a warning message and type I agree to begin. As one may expect, death in a duel to the death is permanent, just like any other death in Hardcore Realms. We feel that this is going to be an extremely exciting addition to Hardcore Realms for those who like to play at the highest possible stakes, and those who wish to spectate such contests of honor. Since bragging rights are important, we'll be tracking the number of kills you receive in duels to the death with the special cosmetic buff on your character called String of Ears. Each time you win a duel to the death, you'll receive a trophy, and the stat count on the buff will increase by 1. Anyone who clicks on your character will be able to see what a rightful combatant you are by the number of ears you've collected. There are some limitations to this, however, as you cannot earn this String of Ears buff before level 10, and you cannot earn this buff if you and your opponent are too many levels apart. There you go. I don't know if I said it right. Loktogar. It's on it's what? Yeah, there you go. Victory or death, an orcish rallying war cry. So there you go. You get a buff. So essentially, what this means is you can. And I've done a bit of reading. You can still duel, so you can still fight your friends and and not die. You can win a duel or whatever. They're adding a second feature called Duel to the Death, where you will die. One of you will die. If you win, you get this String of Ears, which I believe is a paying homage to Diablo. I think it's inside the Diablo games, another Blizzard game. And the more you win, the more ears you collect. Completely cosmetic, no benefit, no stat boosts, pure bragging rights for the keen PvPers out there. I'm sure there'll be a few like cool tournaments and stuff, like in the next 10 hours or, like next 8 hours, level 2 to level 15, and then we're going to have a duel contest between 40 people, and the winner will get something on their main. There'll be something. It'll be a nice little niche thing. When we see somebody with a couple of strings of ears, it might be like, "Lord bloody hell," but I don't think it'll be too groundbreaking. Right, all content phases available from the go. So essentially, what this means is, I'm not going to read through all of this, but it is saying that they're not going to release parts of the game in stages like they have in the past. So previously, they'd release the base game, and then a couple of months later, they would release the first raid tier. A couple of months later, they'd release the second raid tier, X, Y, and Z. What this is saying is they're releasing it all at the beginning. Who does it impact? Mostly people at the top end, the streamers, everyone like that, who play a large chunk of the time, who can get to level cap quickly, and then obviously the race to world first starts. I was listening to someone earlier on saying that they reckon they're going to clear the first raid tier, so the first 40-man raid, within a week. I think he said a week. So they're going to get 40 characters to level 60 and clear the raid boss Ragnaros in 1 week, which is obscene to me. In a week, I'm lucky if I get 4 levels, never mind 60 and a raid. So the last phase of WoW Classic being Naxxramas. So they're going to release that at the very beginning. So you can go into an Naxxramas. Once you hit level 60, if you so desire, you'll probably get one shot but that's part of it. It lets people do what they want, and there's no sort of one of the things I had in there. Yeah, that's up there. Is it too late to start playing? So that was an interesting one, because I certainly feel that way sometimes with a game. Is it too late to jump in because it's already been out 5 months? Their idea is, well, if they release it all at the beginning, then no, it's never too late to jump in because everyone's always had access to the content. You can jump in whenever you want. So I like it. It's good. It won't massively impact myself. I dare say the majority of people too much, because getting to level 60 is the hard thing. Well, is the challenge, right? That's the challenge. Then doing all the raid content is separate. Play nice, play fair. This is the final little message they put in there, essentially saying, you know, be good, don't kill each other. Killing outside of consensual PvP will not be tolerated. And they've said a lot about how they're going to stamp down on people who are griefing. They're going to really like hammer it. So one of the big concerns was, okay, you can't grief outside, but what's stopping somebody going into a dungeon and trying to get everyone killed inside the dungeon? You know, it could happen if someone was having a bad day, or there was an argument inside the dungeon, somebody could try and get each other killed. So malicious player killing outside of consensual PvP will not be tolerated. So it really is that final be good, or, you know, the hammer will fall. So it's good. And there's parts in there about report bombing. So, you know, the opposite side of that, where it's like, oh, I don't like you. If a streamer had dislikes a certain person and they say, right, everyone in chat, report this person. So yeah, that's the final part of that. So it's all in all, some really good things that they're releasing. Very, very happy with how that looks from a you know, a casual game enjoyer perspective. Date being today, 29th. It's quite late on the 28th. It's quite late. They have said that they actively want to encourage people to join the PTR and to help them find any final quests, etc., that they didn't identify that they need to get removed from the game as soon as they can, or update them before the servers launch. Server launch date hasn't been solid set yet. That's still looking like, what was it, September or something? But the PTR releases tomorrow, so anyone who wishes to jump on the PTR, and there's a level cap of level 30 on the PTR, jump on it, play it, enjoy it, feel it out. They said they're going to be very reactive to feedback. So yeah, hopefully we can do that a little bit at some point, see how it feels, and go from there. But all in all, lots of good stuff. And yeah, it's shaping up to be pretty good. The final thing I wanted to mention, which I was very excited about, was trading and auction houses. Now, it's not mentioned down here, but it has been mentioned by the developers on interviews. So trading, auction houses, and mailboxes, they're all okay. Happy days. Trade as much as you want. Grouping up outside of dungeons, that's allowed. Just don't die. So all of the normal World of Warcraft stuff is good to go, because they want to actively encourage group content, which I think is a really, really important thing. So we can group up for elite quests. If you want, you can still do it solo. If you want the challenge, that's fine. It's just if you choose to, you can. And that's going to be especially useful with named mobs, so the tagging issue doesn't exist as much. Trading, you can trade, and that directly impacts professions. So, you know, if you need a certain item, for example, enchanting, I think you need a blacksmithing item for enchanters at a certain level. Happy days, that's now an option. You can trade with somebody, or you can go to the auction house, you can buy it. You can now make money off the auction house. If you need a certain recipe, see if it's on the auction house. If you need a map for one of your, you know, it's such a big, in my mind, a win. It makes the whole community aspect of it much better. So that's good. That was it. And like I say, that the main focus seems to really be towards focusing on, you can't resurrect when you die. That's it. We're not going to make it extra difficult. You want to make it extra difficult? By all means. But we're not going to make it extra difficult for you. And the second side of it is we are really trying to hammer down on stopping people from ruining the gaming experience for others, so griefers, etc. so which are two really big wins in my opinion. So really happy with this. Really gives you a good like warm fuzzy feeling reading this, that the when they do release, they're going to be enjoyable. They're going to be somewhere we actually want to play and want to spend our time there, because obviously time, people like myself and I dare say the vast majority of players, the time we spend playing a video game, procrastinating on a game, that time isn't, you know, we want to make sure it's value for money, that, you know, it's time well spent, and it's shaping up to look like they're trying to make these servers as much of that as possible. There's no mention of them introducing a WoW token. The devs have said they're not interested in it. We'll see how long that lasts. The transfer to if you die, you can transfer to a classic hero realm for free. They haven't tried to monetize that. So lots of wins, lots of wins. The only negatives that I could find from scouring through interviews and the websites and forums predominantly impacted top end raiding groups, you know, and I dare say that the vast majority of us, it won't impact at all. The stuff that will impact us as casuals is all positive. But yeah, that's it. Look, I'll try and share this in my description so you can come here. If there are people with their take on it, I'd love to get a little discussion going in the comments section. People's thoughts: is it good? Is it bad? Do they intend on playing? All that good stuff. But from me, I think this is a positive, and I'm really excited now to get into it. But give me a second wind, I suppose. This is exactly what we needed. That reassuring pat on the shoulders, say, yeah, don't worry, it's going to be good when you get it. You're going to like it, and this is exactly what it is. But yeah, that's it. Just a quick update. So let us know in the comments section how your take, and yeah, I'll see you on the next video.